Meanwhile, Yemeni citizens took to the streets to protest against Israel's military offensive in the Gaza Strip that has resulted in a dire humanitarian catastrophe in the Palestinian Enclave. This is the scale of the protests that have been witnessed in Sanaa, the capital of Yemen, where thousands upon thousands of Yemenis gathered in solidarity with the Palestinian people. They demonstrated and held marches, and they said that this is an offensive that Israel must stop immediately. And protests such as this have been taking place week after week in Yemen.
في موقفنا هذا هو موقف مشرف وموقف مع الأطفال غزة وضد الحصار وضد المجاعة اللي تحدث في غزة وضد تدمير الأعيان المدنية. وبالتالي نقول وبشكل واضح أن على الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية التوقف عن حماية المصالح الصهيونية.
Now, the pro-Palestine rallies continue in the backdrop of Yemen's Houthi rebels ramping up their attacks in the Red Sea. The Iran-backed group, which controls much of Yemen, has been consistently targeting the Israeli-affiliated vessels along the key maritime route. The rebels have said that these attacks will in fact continue until Israel stops bombing the Gaza Strip. On Wednesday, a senior Houthi leader also warned the United States that it would attack American warships in the Red Sea if the United States tries to escalate the war in the region.
فيما إذا كان لدى الأمريكي توجه أن يصعد أكثر وأن يورط نفسه أكثر أو أن يرتكب حماقة بالاستهداف لبلدنا أو بالحرب على بلدنا فلن نقف مكتوف الأيدي. سنستهدفه هو، سنجعل البارجات الأمريكية والمصالح الأمريكية وكذلك الحركة الملاحية الأمريكية هدفا لصواريخنا وطائراتنا المسيرة وعملياتنا العسكرية.
Now, the Iran-backed rebel group has warned Washington after it announced a multinational naval task force in the Red Sea to protect vessels passing through the key trade corridor. So this is, of course, what is happening at this moment. Remember, ever since Israel started its campaign of bombing the Gaza Strip, the Houthis in Yemen, in solidarity with the Palestinian people, have said that so long as Israel continues to bomb the Gaza Strip, they will try and stop the passage of ships that trade with Israel. This, of course, is the threat that Houthis are now carrying out. The Americans have responded by saying that they'll build the largest possible maritime coalition to ensure that the Red Sea corridor for shipping is of course, safe. But in terms of information that is, of course, coming in, it is now being said that the traffic towards the port city of Eilat in southern Israel, the traffic to that particular port has dried up by nearly about 85%. And also to try and help us understand in terms of how the international trade routes have been affected because of this war in West Asia, we're being joined by Mr. John Erath, who's a Senior Policy Director for Centre for Arms Control. Is joining us live on this broadcast. Now, Mr. Erath, going by the developments that have, of course, been taking place, there are very concerning reports that have emerged that the traffic through the Red Sea corridor for international trade is being badly affected. How do you see this going forward? The Americans are, of course, trying to form a maritime coalition to ensure that this corridor, of course, remains safe. But how successful do you think policing the Red Sea corridor can be, because this is such a vast geographical space?
I think that it's not such a difficult matter to make the Red Sea relatively safe from the missile attacks from the Houthi forces in northern Yemen. But the question is, will shippers decide that it's worth the risk, even if that risk is slightly greater? The Red Sea is a very important commercial corridor and vital to trade between Europe and Asia, trade on which the prosperity of countries on both sides depend. So it is something that is a very serious consideration.
And also considering the fact that, the insurance costs have gone up by tens of thousands of dollars in the course of the last 3-4 weeks because of the attacks that have happened. And there are some of the biggest shipping companies have announced that they will stop shipping through the Red Sea corridor. How badly do you think the international trade is likely to be impacted?
There is likely to be some effect. I'm not a trade expert, so I cannot put a number to it. But it's clear that this is part of a strategy on the part of the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran to cause disruptions to international trade, to threaten international prosperity, and to make Israel seem to be the bad guy for all.
Now, the Houthis say that the reason why they are attacking the ships that trade with Israel via the Red Sea corridor is because of what is happening at this moment in the Gaza Strip. The Houthis say that they want to try and bring about more pressure to somehow change the American policy of backing the Israelis in this war. What extent do you think what is happening at this moment in the Red Sea corridor will have an impact on what is happening in the Gaza Strip?
It's very clear that the Houthis are not the ones calling the shots here. The Houthis' problem is with the Yemeni government, and that is what their conflict is. They are supplied by the government of Iran, and it is the Iranian government that's issuing the orders here. So it's a proxy war on the part of Iran to put more pressure on Israel to give up on its attacks on the also backed by Iran Hamas militia.
And the question that I wanted to ask you was, what do you think will be the impact of what is happening at this moment in the Red Sea corridor on the Gaza Strip? Do you think the Americans will change their tack in terms of how they are looking at what is happening in the Gaza Strip?
I think that the more important consideration for policymakers in Washington is what is happening on the ground in Gaza and the considerable pressure that is being exerted on Israel to minimize civilian casualties. That's something that is very important, and it's consistent with international law that conflict area belligerents have the obligation to do whatever is possible to keep civilian casualties to a minimum.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Irat, for joining us and getting us that perspective there.
You're welcome.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.